Welcome, fans, friends, and family. This is the official Lost podcast on ABC.com. Or is it? This may all just be in your head. Geez, you'd think you'd have a better host than this. Executive producers Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse join the podcast later to ponder such mind-bending questions. You know, the type you haven't thought of since that one night in college when Dark Side of the Moon was on repeat and you mused, what if this cookie was really a biscuit, man? Of course, the writers will also be taking your fan questions and contemplating this week's occurrence, SOS, which airs Wednesday, April 12th from 9 to 10 p.m. on ABC. First up, though, we have an exclusive interview with Yunjin Kim, who plays Sun. Now that's someone I'd like stuck in my head.
Where did Sawyer find one of these anyway? I mean, who flies with a pregnancy test, right?
Have you ever taken one?
Yeah.
Thank you for waiting with me and not asking why you're here and not Jin.
You're welcome.
Along with Daniel Dae Kim, who plays Jin, Yunjin Kim, no relation, plays one of the many characters on Lost whose native tongue is not English. While many of us have taken it for granted by now, mainly because of Lost's great storytelling, Yunjin reveals that she was just a little nervous about their flashbacks being almost exclusively in Korean. After all, who likes to read while watching TV?
I think it's a big deal. I think, as far as I know, I think it's the first time that American televisions had so much of a different language being spoken, and American, audience having to sit at home, not even in a movie theater, but sitting at home and having to read subtitles. We were really afraid when we were showing our very first episode, where we had half of it was in Korean, and we thought, oh my God, people are not going to watch us. We're going to totally disgrace, Lost ratings. We're totally going to drop. No one's going to pay attention. But in the beginning, the network, ABC didn't say a word. They actually liked it, so we were surprised. And then after it aired, they actually loved it. They really loved the fact they had to read subtitles, and they thought it drew them more into our story than just having to sit back and listen, and that's all you do. So, I mean, this is really a sort of interesting experience, and I'm glad I'm doing it on this particular show.
여보, 다쳤어? 무슨 일이야? 무슨 일이었어? 이 피는 누구 피야? 사실 무슨 일 있었구나. 밖에서 무슨 일이 있었냐고.
일하고 왔어.
일하고 왔다고? 도대체 아빠 밑에서 무슨 일을 하는 거야?
Of course, the one country where it wasn't a surprise that Sun and Jin spoke Korean? Korea. What do you think I was going to say? Newfoundland?
It's very interesting. When it was on, the first season, Lost was on KBS, which is one of the networks, and now it's on one of the cable shows, which is better because now they have subtitles, and they'll use our voices. But when we speak Korean, obviously they don't need to dub over us.
Right.
But then I started speaking English. So they had to find someone with sort of a husky voice, which is sort of hard to find back in Korea because everyone, I don't know, I sound very, not masculine, but I've got a different type of voice tone than most Korean women do have out there. So they had a hard time trying to find someone to sort of match my voice. And so that was very interesting. But now it's on CGV, which is one of the cable networks, and they just have our own voices, and they just have subtitles. So I think it works out a lot better because when you have it dubbed, and when we're speaking Korean, and like the English speakers, they don't understand Americans, they don't understand us. So just imagine us all speaking in Korean, and they can't understand us. So that element really did not work. The fact that we didn't speak English in the very beginning,
Right.
So I just thought it was hilarious.
Incidentally, other countries' broadcasting laws have also encountered a similar problem, with decidedly unique solutions. In France, for example, Rousseau's French transmission from the pilot was translated to German. The one thing that transcends all languages, though? Practical jokes.
The very first shot you see, I'm looking at myself in the mirror, and then Daniel Day Kim, who plays Jin, calls me to come and join him. Like, hey, honey, aren't you coming to bed? But of course, he says it in Korean. Every time I stepped out, there was another guy on the bed. So Daniel was using, of course, his voice to call me. Every time, it's like they switched all the guys. And like, we did, I don't know, 7 takes of it. Last person was Joyce, our wonderful, beautiful AD. So it cracked me up every time. And then I had to take like a moment to settle myself, and because I'm supposed to look sad in the mirror. But I mean, the camera wasn't rolling. I mean, the DVD person, Dan, he wasn't around. So I was like, oh, this should be on tape, because it was so funny. The whole crew, they were like in line trying to get in bed.
Even though the actors have access to the writers, well, more than most people do, it doesn't mean they get their questions answered any faster than the audience does. And for Yunjin, that drives her crazy.
Every time I get the new script for the new episode, wherever I am, I just stop myself, stop everything, and I just rip through the script, because I'm so curious, as not just because I'm on the show, but just as, someone who really likes watching the show, find out, what's going to happen to all these characters.
Lucky for us, we can get some answers. Sometimes. For that, we turn it over to executive producers Damon Lindelof and Carlton Cuse, introduced by their brand new, unnamed theme music, which one fan lovingly dubbed The Pod Squad.
Hello, Damon.
Hi, Carlton.
Well, here we are. It's time for another podcast, I guess.
It sure is.
Is that exciting enough?
It is.
No, we're very excited to talk about Dave.
Yeah. Well, that was last week's episode, and we'll be, I guess, looking forwards towards SOS.
That's right.
This week's episode.
So, what kind of feedback did you get? Do you think people saw the big twist coming, that Dave was imaginary?
Well, I guess imaginary is all relative. There are some people who say that you're imaginary, Carlton. And in fact, when they listen to these podcasts, I'm just talking to myself.
You do actually both voices really quite well.
It is quite phenomenal. There is a photograph of me with my arm around nothing.
Of course, it could be that I'm actually you doing your voice as me.
So which of us is imaginary, then?
That's a good question.
What
Maybe
if
we should poll the readers.
What if the whole show is imaginary?
Listeners,
what if it was,
whatever they are.
What if the show was imaginary and made up?
Could this podcast merely be taking place in my head? Could I actually be locked in a mental hospital somewhere?
How would one listen to an imaginary podcast? Well, I guess imaginary is all relative. That's the moral of the story.
And that was sort of the moral of Dave, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, obviously, I think what was really cool about that episode is at the end of it, we sort of had Dave advance out that this was all happening in Hurley's head and sort of download a possible theory about the numbers that would sort of explain everything. But then at the end of the episode, sort of Libby comes and sort of in a very emotionally grounded way pokes a very significant hole in that theory, which is, if this were all in your head, how would I remember experiences that you have no recollection of? Which is a very salient point. Unfortunately for Libby...
However, she's in a mental hospital.
Yeah, exactly. The person who has now grounded the show back in reality for us seemed to have been in the same mental hospital as Hurley. So what does that say? Maybe Libby's imaginary.
It's kind of it's mirrors within mirrors, isn't it?
It gives me a headache.
It really does.
We really need to start writing that werewolf talking car show. Carnivore.
Carnivore.
I love it.
That's fantastic. And stories will come very easily on that.
We have to figure out what kind of accent the car will have, though, because it's like in
Latvian.
Yeah, a Latvian accent.
car, I think, would be very good.
It would appear you have left some fur on the front seat, Joseph. It has to be like a really kind of whiny Latvian car.
Was that Latvian?
I don't know. It was my best attempt.
I would like to know actually what a Latvian accent sounds like.
I believe
maybe
that
I'm sure that guy
Yeah.
who wrote Andrew Dashko is going to probably be send us a tape of
Yeah,
some
I will not be opening up any mail from Latvia anytime
Yes.
soon, based on my comments today.
Exactly.
Sorry, next. It's bad enough that the city of Tallahassee hates us.
I know. Well, why is that?
I think it's a long and
long
involved
story.
story, Carlton, and
We'll get to that some
all
other time.
I'll say on the record is it's your fault, and that I love Tallahassee with all
You
my
don't
heart.
though.
I
No, you don't.
They started.
They started it by being nice to us.
Looking forward to SOS.
SOS, yes.
Why is it called SOS, Carlton?
Save our ship.
Why? But they don't have a ship.
Well, I think it's because this is a Rose and Bernard episode, and Bernard has something in mind involving SOS.
Why would they? Why would they? What if the people who are looking for them don't speak English, and they wouldn't understand what SOS meant?
What is SOS in Latvian? I suppose it's like, can you actually trace like Cyrillic Russian? That would have been much cooler if we'd had them actually trace Cyrillic letters in the sand.
That would be much cooler. But I think what's great about this episode this week is it's Rose and Bernard's story, which the fans have sort of been looking for. We've done a lot of. Carlton
I'm just
is
crying
now.
already because I know it's going to be emotional.
It's a weeper, and they're great. And we've done a lot of crazy mythological stuff in the last couple weeks, and it's sort of
crazy.
Crazy. It's good to get sort of down to brass tacks and sort of just see. I think another thing that a lot of people ask us is, what are all those people doing in the background? And we feel that Bernard really speaks for those without voices.
Background.
So we'll kind of see what the Sox are all up to.
He is sort of the king of the Sox.
And keep your ears peeled for Neil Frogert, who will, I think is the first official mention of
the
Frogert.
Ears peeled, not eyes.
Exactly.
We're not going to Neil. We're not just giving you a visual on Neil that easily.
And we've also got a little bit of Kate and Jack action. Little things are heating up between those two.
We do. There's some good stuff with them in this episode. This is very good. It's a very emotional episode, and I'm gonna cry. Are you?
I'm crying right now on
That's
the inside as I talk to my imaginary self. What if I'm my own imaginary friend?
Well, that would kind of be sad, wouldn't it?
Yes. I suppose it would. How about we move on to questions, Carlton?
It's time for questions.
Cue the fanfare.
Oh, that's fantastic.
May I start, Carlton?
Oh, go ahead. Sure.
Carlton, this is from Sawyer.
No, you go ahead.
Please. This is from Sawyer5665, who has 894 posts in the last 90 days.
Wow.
Just to compare Sawyer with the other people on this question sheet, we have AstroTorf, who had 10 posts in the last 90 days. TV Addict, who had 3 posts in the last 90 days. Not much of an addict, are you?
That's a lot of posts.
And S. Steiger with 1 post in the last 90 days. It would seem that Sawyer5665 with 894 posts. Let's do the math
I'm going to be very careful about how I answer this question.
That is essentially an average of 10 posts a day. So the subject heading here, Carlton, is Where Are You, Echo? 2 straight episodes without even one shot of Echo? Come on! That's the question.
Echo's there. He's been hanging out with Rose and Bernard and the Sox. So,
are we going to see him this week?
We are definitely going to see him this week.
All right, that's all I really care about. And also, ironically, Sawyer56665 asked that question.
Yeah, I mean, what wasn't he more concerned about Sawyer?
I guess not.
I guess that's the other 890,000 posts.
Carlton likes Echo too.
I do too. I really do.
I love Echo.
Echo is fantastic.
He's not imaginary.
He is not. So, Damon.
But then again, if I were imaginary, I wouldn't even be saying that right now.
I'm going to ask my alter ego, other personality, use my other voice here to ask. I'll ask myself this question, then answer it.
What does your other voice sound like? Is that the high pitched voice?
Son's pregnant.
Oh no! Don't read it like that, please. Okay.
That'd be pretty much it. Then
yes.
I would be. We'll never get that morning drive show that we want after we get off this show.
We got an offer in Austin, Texas.
We're holding out for Cleveland. We want morning drive in Cleveland.
Cleveland, we're coming.
We're coming to Cleveland, 6 to 10 in Cleveland every morning.
I want a horn.
Mornings in Cleveland.
Can we do like funny sound effects? That's what we need. The guy who does the funny sound effects. All right, ask your
Chris
question.
Chris is going to do that. Chris wants to go to Cleveland with us.
Do you have any questions about
Son's pregnancy from another by Muraval, 40 posts in the last 90 days. This may be a stupid thought, but since Son's husband is not able to bear children, how could Son be pregnant from him.
Wait a minute. Ask that question again.
Maybe a stupid thought, but since Sun's husband is not able to bear children...
No, okay, I'm just going to stop you right there. Are you able to bear children, Carlton? Because I know I'm not. In fact, I know it's lost, but if Jin were able to bear children, that would be a problem. But let's move on.
But then seemingly in contradiction to the first part of the question, how could Sun be pregnant from him? They called it a miracle, but we all know it's unlikely. Someone on the boards once mentioned that Charlie could be possibly another. Does anyone think that Charlie could have turned into another when he was kidnapped by the others? Could he have done something to Sun when he tried to do a fake kidnapping, as in impregnate her? Sounds weird, but Charlie has been acting very strange lately.
You lost me at where Jin was bearing children, which should be a great episode. But
I think actually Charlie impregnated Jin.
Yeah, I'm going to go on.
That's going to be that's a big revelation in the season finale.
I know that we do a lot of hemming and hawing, Carlton, and we get accused of
I
never
hem,
answering.
you haw.
That's true, or I don't exist and you hem and haw. But I will answer this question in a definitive fashion, and I will say categorically that Charlie is not an other.
Yes, he is not another. And I will say categorically that Jin is not pregnant.
Yeah, he cannot bear children.
That's right. He cannot bear children yet. Until the zombie season.
Oh, it's a great thing that you asked that question, Carlton, because my question for you is from the Sademo Kid, 22. And he says, I know you've stated that people are not going to come back as zombies. Thank God, because that sounds so B-movie. But I have to make an observation. You keep talking about zombie this and zombie that, and this whole season 7, the zombie season. I was wondering where that all came from. I know that on the old Hansel Foundation website, you could input the code "The Island is Waiting" and read the Lost script page, and it mentioned zombies. Did I miss a podcast? Did someone bring that up? Or did your zombie tangent come completely by coincidence?
Well, there's a lot there to really get into. We don't have time to really do the full zombie download today.
We should eat some brains and then get back to that.
First off, I just say that, future tripping about season 7, and as we're finishing season 2, you really shouldn't get that far ahead of us. Really, by the time season 7 comes along, you're going to pray that it's only zombies.
Right. I mean, when Jin gives birth in season 6, which is going to be
you'll be thinking, thank God the show is grounded and they're only doing zombie stories.
It's a watershed moment. That's when they jumped the shark after Jin gave birth, and then the zombie season came and bought it all back.
Exactly. Thank God for the zombie season, which brought everything back to a nice, calm, rational place.
I think we have time for one more question, Carlton.
Well, let me just say, no, it's kind of a joke, really. The zombie stuff, it's kind of a joke.
Is it?
Is it? Or maybe it isn't.
We'll see.
Or maybe it's a coincidence.
It really depends on how you define the word zombie.
Or joke.
Exactly.
All right. Hi, I'm from Lafayette. No, sorry. This is by Lol89. Damon. Okay. Hi guys, I think this is a great opportunity and I just want to take advantage of it. Here's my question. If a theory became very popular and was very accurate, what would you do? Would you admit it, change the show, or ignore it? Thanks, Lol89.
Interesting. It's an interesting question. Obviously, it depends on what the theory was. We believe that, we have our own theories and answers for the show, and if somebody were to tap into and figure out what it was we were doing, we would not course correct just because we had been spoiled. There are a lot of different theories out there, many of which incorporate some parts of what's actually going on, but then sort of spin off into Crazyville.
I think if you actually got lucky enough to hit on the right answer, you would just feel happy that, and you would feel vindicated as the stories unfolded and you found out that you were right.
And of course, we would have to kill you as well. I mean, that's the sort of downside. I mean, if your theory were right, we would have to, we'd have to make sure that you weren't going around and telling people about it.
We'll send someone out to you who has posted at least 800 times, and that is not somebody you want to see come knocking at your door.
Yeah, we probably wouldn't kill you as much as sort of like...
Don't say that.
Send you a package from Latvia.
That's a joke.
Yeah.
We'll send you something from Latvia.
Exactly.
Well, thank you guys. This has really been fun, and I hope you're really proud of how well I've done my Damon voice today. I worked on it all week, and I think I've got it down pretty good. So next week, Damon will actually be back in person to join me for this podcast. But in the meantime, thank you, Damon.
And I just like to say that my name is Carlton, and I'm a very, very sad man. And when I said I threw my maracas away last week, I was lying. In fact, I have them in my hands right now. And I'm moving very, very slowly, so you won't hear them shaking around.
All right. Well, we'll see you soon.
Okay, bye, guys.
Bye.
That wraps up this podcast. Even though Lost is in repeats for a few weeks, you can still submit your fan questions and find other material to hold you over at lost.abc.com. SOS airs Wednesday, April 12th from 9 to 10 p.m. only on ABC. The show then returns on April 26th with a brand new recap episode entitled Reckoning.